right now you probably are in the midst of the pain of extensions. And I wanted to bring some answers to your questions about how you can utilize automation to eliminate many hours of back and forth and informing clients about what your deadlines are in order to be able to help them meet their deadline. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about extensions and how TaxDome can help you with managing your extension. So it makes it so smooth and it helps you stay organized and it helps you ensure that nobody falls in the crack. And also it takes a ton of effort off of your shoulders.
If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Jamie Gruel, and after helping over 500 tax and accounting practices implement automation with TaxDome, I can confidently say that automation is the only way to increase your profit and time freedom in your practice.
And so I'm going to show you 3 specific features or automation tools within TaxDome that are going to help you do that. So if you are brand new to our world, I'm Jamie Gruel. I am an automation and TaxDome expert, I guess. And I help tax professionals, accountants, and bookkeepers to implement TaxDome for the greatest efficiency in their operations. So what we do is we have a lot of best practices that we have learned in helping over 800 practices to implement TaxDome. And what we do is break down the way in which you can utilize TaxDome in your small practice to make sure that you're doing it effectively, efficiently, and most importantly, it's keeping you safe. Because we don't want you to be overwhelmed by setting up your TaxDome. We want you to enjoy the benefits of TaxDome and all that it can do for your small practice. Because we know that when you implement TaxDome and you implement it properly, you're going to, one, have a really great client experience. And we're going to talk about that today. It's going to save you anywhere from 10 to 15 hours a week. This is because we're eliminating a lot of the administrative efforts that go into just all the back and forth with clients and following up with clients and reminding clients, also delegating out work within your practice and making sure that you have access to all the information you need to perform the services that you have been engaged with by your clients. Now, I'm talking specifically today about tax preparation, but do know that TaxDome can do so much more. And why we love TaxDome is because it is so customizable, but that can also be its downfall because it can feel very overwhelming. So what we like to do is break it down, help you see what's possible, and then show you exactly how to implement it. Now, I'm not going to be able to show you how to implement all the things we're talking about today, but I am going to give you some great tips and tricks here to allow you to see what is out there, what you could have in your toolkit, if you will, for your small practice and for managing your clients, especially in that compliance where it's so deliverable heavy, right? There's so much back and forth. There's so much document gathering. There's so much informing the client. And so we're going to show you that today. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to get my system set up to share my screen, get on the right screen here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the power of the TaxDome automation in the pipeline. So this is a pipeline in TaxDome, and pipelines in TaxDome are really amazing. And when it comes to extension, one of the biggest challenges that we have had a lot of people say is, I need to inform my clients, and how can I do that in a way that allows me to get the work done? And there's a couple of ways you can do this. Now, this conversation all spun out of a conversation I had within our last open office hours in our program, Workflows for Tax Pros. And we had a community member come to us and say, hey, the way that we were doing our extensions is no longer working for us. It felt very clunky. Our team didn't adopt it well. There were a lot of miscommunications with our clients, but also internally as a team. And we kind of ended up left where we didn't know who was doing what. And so what we discussed was, how can we use the TaxDome system to make sure that we're getting the information to our client? Now, this is our tax prep pipeline. Now, this is our signature pipeline that we have in our Workflows for Tax Pros program. And what this pipeline does is it allows us to automate the process of delivering a completed tax return to our client. So it's A to Z, the step-by-step of that. Basically, you go through client onboarding, you then go into tax preparation, the return preparation. We have, of course, managing missing documents in order to be able to complete that preparation efficiently, and then ultimately into the e-signature and filings so that we can get the return filed on their behalf. The thing about this, and that we love so much about TaxDome, is it allows us to see exactly where our clients are at in the process. And so I wanted to share this with you because you may be new to the way of TaxDome, how TaxDome works. Maybe you're moving to it this year, or maybe you moved to it last year and you've only been using the portal and maybe the e-signatures, and you're really excited about the potential of what pipelines can do for you, because pipelines is where you're going to get that 10 to 15 hours back. If you're like, I implemented TaxDome and I didn't get my time back, it's because you're not using pipelines to their full effect, and or you're not using them at all. And so you're missing out on some really great tool in your practice operation that can help you to know exactly where a client is at. So for example, in the pipeline, when I am managing my extension client, I can, let's say, find an example client here. We'll use this married filing joint, or actually we'll use the Wilkinsons. So the Wilkinsons are here. Maybe they reach out to us. They have, it's close to extension, or excuse me, the deadline. So let's say it's like April 8th or something. And you're like, okay, hey, Viva and Joe, we're not gonna be able to file for you. So we need to put you on extension. How can I do that? Well, the first thing is to identify that Viva and Joe need to have their extension filed. And we can do that first by adding a tag that says that we need to have an extension needed. By doing this, it informs me and my team that we're going to do this. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is I'm actually going to recommend that you create a second extension pipeline, a pipeline where it takes them through just the process of completing the extension. So here we are back in our client. So here we have Viva and Joe. So I would have a second pipeline, and I unfortunately don't have that built out today. We do include that in our workflows program. So if you're a member, we're going to have it in there. But what we discussed was building out a pipeline where it was just a very simple pipeline. You would have basically extension needed, an extension in progress. So like if you have multiple people that are responsible for helping to make this happen, you can have the tasks assigned out automatically to those people. And then the final stage was extension completed, where it would then be, in the process it's done, right? Like the extension has been filed. What we're going to do for the client here, though, is we're going to add this extension needed, going to also be able to add what we're going to look at in a moment, which is client facing status. And I'll show you what that looks like. But we can turn this on and add the client facing status here. But the benefit of adding this is that, one, it shows us in our pipeline that an extension has been filed for this person. So one of the tasks in that other pipeline is that we're going to mark that job card as extension filed. And so this is very easily done through bulk actions in our jobs section, and we can add all of those quickly and effectively. And so what that does now is we can have on our job card showing that extension or client facing status, and we can see any clients that are in the pipeline, our tax prep pipeline, that the extension has been filed for. And we can then add a filter, which allows us to filter out those clients that contain the tag. Let's do it this way: extension. So completed, needed, prepared, and extension. So if it has those tags on it and I apply that, it's going to take those away. And so what that does is it allows us to have our accounts only show those accounts that are in actual action, right? Like they're actually being actively taken. So you're able to filter down and keep this view of your pipeline completely clean to just those clients that you need to be taking action on. Now, the other thing to know about TaxDome, I am a single user TaxDome instance, just that is what my playground here is set up as. But if you have multiple users, your team can also filter down and show only those accounts using that same filter function, only those jobs that are assigned to them, so that they can only see those in their pipeline as well. So that is a way of making sure that this pipeline that you're working from, you are able to very easily see where anyone is at. Now, I want to tell you a little story, and it is from one of our clients, and she actually had a health emergency 2 days before the April 15th deadline. And she had a lot of clients that she had not yet filed her extension for, whether it was because she was trying to get them done or they just hadn't gotten to that step yet because there were still a couple days until the deadline. Well, she ended up having that health emergency, and it left her unable to perform the extension filing. And so she had an administrative assistant, thank goodness, who understood TaxDome, understood their processes. And that administrative assistant was very easily able to come into her pipeline and identify all of those clients that were not in the actual extension or the filing has been completed, create and file extensions for all of those clients on their behalf in that window of time because they had the organized nature of their process in the pipeline, if that makes sense. So she was able to come in here and see, okay, so if they're not in, 8879 is signed and I have filed the return, then I need to send them an extension because even if it was in the process, like the client had approved it, the preparer was no longer capable of actually filing the return on behalf of that client. And so they were able, because of their pipeline, to quickly assign those or get those extensions out and make sure that they were completed. So that was really valuable. So that is the power of the automations of the pipeline and how it can help you in your extension season. The next one I want to talk about is the ability to filter all of your accounts. So if I go into my client accounts, there are times that you need to communicate with people. So we had a member in our group recently ask about how to reinvigorate the energy into getting extension documents from clients. So, or not extension documents, but the documents on clients that are extended. So they wanted to know, how can I do that? And how can I quickly manage getting these communications out to let them know what my deadline is for the individuals? Well, I said, well, best way to do this is because you've been using your tagging system is we can go in and we can actually filter our client accounts by those tags. So as I showed you, we're able to add tags right off the job cards. And we have tagging mechanism where once the extension has been filed and completed, they get tagged with that. But what I recommended to him is that you can go in and you can create these filters. So if I go in, I can create a tag filter. We'll do extension. And this is what an Excel spreadsheet would never be able to do, right? This is where you would be spending a lot of time and energy. How have we filed? How have we not? Maybe you're using our prep software. They're never going to give you the kind of information that you can get from a practice management tool like TaxDome, because what it does is it becomes your centralized source of information. Because we're actually performing and updating TaxDome as we go along the process of completing the return for the client, and any anomalies that do happen along that process, it's all right in TaxDome. And because we use tags, we're able to quickly assess where somebody is at in the process. So all of our clients that have had an extension completed, and this would be everybody basically after the April 15th deadline, if we have completed a return or an extension for them, we can now filter by all of those and make sure that we're going to be able to communicate with them. So I don't need to email all of my clients and tell them that your extension is due, like your documents in order to complete your return. And I can now communicate with these people very effectively, very quickly. So what I want to recommend is creating a filter that you can actually save so that you can quickly do this year after year. Or if you want to communicate with them on, say, August 1st and then August 15th and then September 1st, reminding them that they need to take these actions, this is a great way to do that. So first, we're going to grab our tag. Then I'm going to click this edit button. And actually, we can add a second layer of filter. You can actually do that from the filter button there too. But I'm going to select the pipeline because I want to only show those clients that have active jobs in my tax prep pipeline. And that's going to allow me to be able to have my list be just those clients from this year, just those clients that are active in this tax year. And so in case somebody had an accidental tag on them somewhere else, I know that this is only clients that are in my tax prep pipeline for this year. So I can then go in and select this box, and then I can send them an email. I can also send them a chat. And if I had SMS set up, I could also send them SMS. But what this does is it, again, allows us to make sure that we're communicating with them. So I'm going to go back here and I want to show you how we can save this filter. So once I go back into the edit screen, I can add a filter here, communications. I'm going to call it extension communications because this is going to be my filter for everyone that's extension completed. And I'm going to hit save and apply. And that's going to run my filter. But what happens is if I get rid of these filters, I can now come back into my presets and I can now easily communicate with my clients by going to the extension communication. I click on it. It's going to filter back down to everybody that has that extension completed tag on it and are able to needing those communications. So it's a great way to get things done. Now, you might be thinking, well, but what about people that have completed their documents and I don't need to send to them? Great. We can also get very specific about where they're at in our pipeline, and we can select just the stages where we're going to have them right here. So it's basically everybody in my onboarding process, right? Or in my missing documents process. But those that are in process of needing to have their return completed or sign the 8879, they're actually going to be filtered out of that filter. So that's another layer of filtering we can do to fine tune the returns and the results. Now, the other thing that you can do with these processes is you could create this filter as the owner or the manager, create the filter, test it, make sure it's working, do it the first time or two, and then we can delegate it out. You can make this filter public. So once you have your filter fine tuned, make the filter public, and you could actually assign this out to an admin via a task here in TaxDome or some other mechanism where they're assigned the work to go and actually do these communications on the follow-up dates that you have prescribed in your delegation opportunity. So that is a really great way of delegating. Now, the third thing that I want to show you is what it looks like to the client, because once you have filed the return, we need to inform our client. And we have a couple ways we can do that. One, we can send them an email or a chat that says, hey, we have filed an extension on your behalf. Just letting you know this. We'll be in touch with you shortly. It can be a little bit more lengthy, maybe giving them a timeline of what you're going to expect for the documents to be submitted to you so you can meet the now September or October deadlines in the process. But the other thing that we can do, and I'm going to show you from the client view, is we can actually now use client-facing statuses to inform our client. So if we have our extension filed process that we have set up here, we can actually have and notify the client that the extension has been filed. And so this allows them to log in and see that for their tax preparation for this year, that extension has been filed and it is now, we can give them a quick note. Our team will be in contact in May to discuss next steps and timelines. This would be the message that you would apply right after you filed it back in March or April, and letting them know when you'll be in touch with them again, because you don't want them thinking that you're going to contact them next week. You want to take a break. You're going to pick this back up in May. You'll be in touch at that time. And this allows us to open up the client communications. I hear from preparers and practice owners all the time that they struggle with their clients understanding what is needed of them, whether it's what documents to send or what the timelines are. And that results in a lot of stress and a lot of effort and a lot of burnout because you're constantly having to communicate with your client. So what we like to do is be really proactive with our communications and making sure that we're setting our clients up for success, setting them up for understanding of what's expected of them, understanding of what the timelines are that they need to adhere to. And then if somebody pushes back on us or is not willing to engage with us in those expectations that have been set, because we are the professional, we can then determine maybe this client is not a good fit for us, because there's a lot of good fit clients out there, not just the ones you're working with today. So don't feel like you have to bend and flex to the demands of your clients. This gives us an opportunity to build in systems that allow us to have boundaries without feeling like we have to do the things for the clients because that's what they're expecting of us, not what our actual business processes are. So I wanted to share these three pieces with you. The first one is the automated pipeline. The second one is the ability to communicate quickly and effectively with our clients by emails or messages, making sure that they're always aware of what we need of them. The power is the ability to filter them and filter those messages to just the people that need to receive them, allowing you to add urgency and making sure that they understand what those impacts can be if they don't get you the information that you need. And finally, we have the client-facing statuses, which is just a game changer in the client portal. TaxDome's client portal is super easy to handle, but it's nice to always have that client status right there front and center for your clients so that they're not having to search out a chat or understand what next steps are. We can just update those client statuses and make sure that they're always current on our latest and greatest information that our clients need to know. So I hope that you found this helpful. Those three automations that are going to really change the game for you when it comes to your client extensions and managing those for this next tax season. Again, if you have questions or if you want to share, if you have an extension horror story, share it below. And maybe what I'll do is I can reply back to you and we can have a conversation about what are some opportunities or solutions that you could put in place using the TaxDome system that would allow us to better communicate with our clients and avoid some of the hairy messes that people have gotten into with extensions and people falling in the cracks and having to scramble to get things cleaned up. So drop your stories below about extensions, and I look forward to hearing them and getting to provide you some solutions about how you can use TaxDome in your practice. So we'll see you in the next video, and I look forward to getting to help solve your problems, save you loads of time this next tax season, and using TaxDome system fully and effectively.